Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back with another video from Mother's Basement, and we are checking out the top 5 worst anime of 2021. Now, X-Arm definitely has to be on this. I remember that very start of the year. And I'm not going to be surprised if Season 2 of the Promised Neverland is on this list. Jeff absolutely despised it, and I didn't like it either. And that's coming from someone that was anime only at the time. I'm currently reading the manga now, and I'm already noticing a huge difference in both mediums. But let's see what the other three are, shall we? I can't wait for him to rant about Promised Neverland again. Oh, and X-Arm, the animation on that was just...
Anime, on the whole, has never been better than it was.
This year was incredible, though, wasn't it?
The year came packed with so many heavy-hitting blockbusters, surprise cult hits, and lovingly crafted instant classics that no other even comes close. And
no way.
It's effectively impossible to name a single anime of the year.
Yeah, he had difficulty. He had difficulty.
The brighter the light, the darker the shadow.
Oh god.
For all the incredible new heights that certain anime soared to in the last 365 days, there were other shows that sunk to deeper, inkier, stinkier depths than ever before.
Here we go.
Reboots no one asked for. Unstoppable engines of aching, inconsolable disappointment.
What is that?
A haphazard 3D rendering of the
what was up with X-Arm, man? What was up with it?
With the new hottest trash of the season series, my chief goal has been to celebrate the sheer audacity of anime that dare to defy
does a good job of it as well. My god.
To roast them tough-lovingly instead of just mercilessly shitting on them. You will see a bit of that in this video too, but make no mistake, what you're watching now is not a dumpster fire. This is a public toilet, and our only goal today is to pick out the corniest, sloppiest dookies in the anime bowl, ranked based on a combination of objective technical failings and how much pain they caused me personally, then point at them and laugh. These are the absolute worst anime of 2021.
There we go.
Ragnarok, a pitched death battle between the mightiest warriors in mankind's history and the mightiest gods.
What is this? What is this?
The prize on the line? Nothing less than our very existence as a species.
My God.
It's a contest of will and skill alike, the likes of which the whole of the cosmos has never witnessed.
It's a battle royale.
An event to end all events, the mere thought of which sends shivers
Jesus,
down
look
even
how
the
buff they are.
Can you imagine
It's JoJo's on
a perfect
steroids.
setup for a battle anime? Well, the thing about setups is, without a good punchline, even the best ones are worthless.
Oh my
With
god.
frequently janky art and animation, bafflingly composed storyboards, and distractingly familiar sound design. The Netflix original Record of Ragnarok was an apocalyptic disappointment on every conceivable level.
Oh
now,
yeah, I remember a lot of
clip of me and the Trash Taste
people
boys reacting to this show's first fight,
kicking off
even
about it.
getting a bit hyped about it.
Okay.
While I can only
Opening
speak
episodes
for
usually are like that,
myself in
though.
Situation, I assure you that that hype was genuine, but that's only thanks to the format it was presented to me.
Right, okay.
Watching the curated clip that Netflix sent us to react to, I got to see the opening blows of the battle between Thor and Lu Bu play out in the space of about
right, okay, so that's Thor and Lu Bu, cool.
I thought represented the first chunk of episode 1. In the actual anime, that same fighter intro and exchange of exactly 3 attacks takes almost half an hour and ends halfway through episode 2.
Oh.
And that is just a fraction of the fight's total 4.5 episode runtime. And there are only 12 episodes in the whole season. Forget the
Oh my god, that's crazy.
Biggest problem by far
Pacing?
is its utterly atrocious structure and pacing.
There we go, okay, cool, sounds it,
If you
Jesus.
will, a version of Dragon Ball Z that starts in medias res during the iconic first fight between Goku and Vegeta. Only right as Goku's winding up his first punch, we suddenly flash back to a 2-minute montage of him training under Grandpa Goku meeting Bulma. Then, after the punch connects, all of the surviving Z-Fighters take turns reacting to it, commenting on how hard Goku punched that guy and talking at length about what a cool dude he
Oh my.
Then the World Tournament announcer dude
No,
flies
it's like,
over
oh
in a
my god,
helicopter
look at
to
this
offer
fight, it's
his
incredible.
commentary on the fight choreography. And then, finally, Vegeta starts winding up his own first punch,
attack.
only
Oh
for us
god.
to flash back to his
Could
harsh
you
childhood
imagine? No.
training as a Saiyan warrior. Then that punch connects, and every single surviving Z-fighter reacts to how hard it was and despairs at how
That sounds awful.
strong
Sounds
and evil
absolutely
this guy is.
awful.
And the World Tournament announcer is like, damn, that punch was incredible. And somehow Frieza's also watching, and he gives an approving, maniacal laugh. Realizing how strong his opponent is, Goku gets ready to unleash his Kaioken, and we cut away to a 3-minute
Training montage of how he got that. Right, yeah.
After that, there's a solid minute of him screaming and slowly turning
which
red.
is kinda normal.
Then he hits Vegeta once, and every single person watching offers their color commentary again, including Hercule, who's here now somehow. This pattern continues until the fight concludes sometime around the heat death of the universe. That's what Record of Ragnarok is like.
Sounds abysmal.
Its individual
Sounds
moments
absolutely abysmal.
of animated action can actually kick a decent quantity of ass. Its flashbacks to important moments in the history of its human fighters and the most killer combat feats of its pantheon of gods can be pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Like Thor single-handedly fending off an Attack on Titan-style onslaught of Jotnar invading Valhalla. The color commentary parts can even be pretty fun and witty.
Is it just too
want to
much?
be.
Is it just
There's
too
a lot
much?
of big personalities sitting around this Colosseum with a lot of interesting things to say. But by constantly jumping between these different modes of
Oh,
storytelling,
that was the thing about Record of
letting
Ragnarok.
each
People were
one
kicking
play
off because it
out
represented a
just
god
long
that
enough to
shouldn't
ruin
have
the
an
flow of
actual
whatever it's
image, was it?
interrupting, while
Was
still
something like
being
that?
too short to satisfy on its own. Record of Ragnarok manages to drain from each and every one of these moments each and every ounce of hype that wasn't already cancelled out by the PowerPoint-esque fluidity of the action. It's almost impressive how consistently this show is able to turn each potential climax into a shuddering feeling of disappointment,
Oh,
like
mate.
the seinen battle equivalent of edging. There's plenty of content here that's fun and or awesome enough on paper to have me hooting and hollering at the screen in delight, like Thor throwing his awakened, engorged hammer in a boomerang attack that's actually just the wind-up for an even bigger ultimate thunder clapback.
Oh, whoa.
Hermes playing a rockin' rainbow violin solo to get Zeus literally pumped up for his fight with Adam.
Cool.
But all that potential's squandered when Zeus just keeps on gyrating until the bit goes from funny to uncomfortable, loops back to funny, and then becomes uncomfortable again. Without fail, every cool moment in Record of Ragnarok is dragged both down and out into mundane
Doesn't quite hit right.
which is a shame because the manga this anime is based on is clearly gorgeous.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of
Everything
people
I've
say that
heard,
it's a
it
shame.
kicks a godly
I'm
amount of
remembering
ass
comments
to
now on
boot.
other
And I
videos.
don't even need to read it.
People
to have
really
an
like the
idea of
manga
how
for this,
good
don't
it
they?
is. Most of the things that happen in this anime would be amazing if only I could read them at my own pace and the art actually looked like art. This is the rare anime adaptation so bad that it makes you feel like a disappointed fan, even if you've never read a page
Right, so
of the
even if
source
you've never been a fan of the
material in
original
your
stuff.
life.
Huh.
Well,
That's grim.
I say rare, but there's actually quite a few of those this year. Video game adaptations have a long and storied legacy of crushing disappointment and laughable ineptitude across every linear narrative medium you can name. But even more than Hollywood, the anime industry has proven to have a real passion for turning long-beloved works of interactive art and scrappy
You know what, the Devil May
newcomers
Cry
like
anime was
Pokemon alike
not
into
awful.
barely watchable piles of dog tooth.
It was
And even in
alright.
the age of Castlevania, Bomberman, Jetters, and Arcane,
Oh, mate.
that hasn't changed. Last year, Dragon's Dogma fans got to taste the Danganronpa-ly delicious despair of seeing their favorite franchise get the old Uva Bowl. This year, The World Ends With You fans were subjected to a soulless speed run of
Oh, was
their
it not that
favorite
good?
game. Blue Reflection aficionados, if those are even a thing, were given the old JC staff shaft. Uma Musume stands were incredibly well fed, as all Cygames fans always are, and fans of every other gacha game starved. Again, as they always do.
Oh,
Any
no.
one of those, except Uma Musume and Tact Op Destiny, could have
Tact
taken
Op
the slot.
Destiny.
Deep
I only watched
Insanity,
first
The Lost
episode, and
Child
my god, that
came
was
with an inherent
gorgeous.
threat. But, like, this clone had some nice background art and music in it.
Okay.
Scarlet Nexus, on the other hand, doesn't even have that much going for it, which is especially weird when the game it's based on contains absolutely visionary
Yeah, I've seen what
and
Scarlet Nexus's video
absolutely
game looks like, and
jams
Jesus.
that combine to form a truly pristine vibe.
Ha,
The issue
that
isn't
is a shame.
just that the anime sets are ugly in comparison to the game, though boy howdy they sure fucking are. Half the time it's flat concrete textures and hastily scribbled rubble as far as the eye can see. But the other half of the time, the show doesn't even have backgrounds. Just fugly off-model
Just colours.
characters flailing around in front of a flat monocolor void.
Oh.
Or some default particle effects that the show's
Yes.
feeling fancy. And the music that replaced the aforementioned lo-fi jams somehow manages to be even less distinct and memorable than that.
Oh.
That leaves the story and characters to carry the whole show all by themselves. And one of the game's chief selling points is that it's basically a fun 7 out of 10 sci-fi action anime you can play, so it's actually not inconceivable that that could work.
Right, okay.
Unfortunately, the show's writers also completely bunged up the plot in a way that makes the male protagonist come off like he's stalking his female counterpart instead of just meeting her coincidentally when shit hits the fan the first time. And, even worse, it totally spoils twists that are supposed to come hours into the game.
I've heard
right
that as well. I'm
first
sure
episode.
he's talked
So
about this
watching even a
before,
little bit of
like,
this anime
yeah.
will actively
Spoil the game.
diminish your
Yeah, it's weird. It's like,
enjoyment
this is meant to
of the
advertise
game
for people
it's
to play the
supposed
game
to be
potentially, but then when they play it, they're gonna know what's
hard
happening.
To imagine a worse sin for an adaptation to commit than that.
That's so
But
weird.
As an anime, Scarlet Nexus commits an even greater sin.
Oh no.
It's just plain fucking boring.
Oh, God.
It doesn't even ruin the game's plot in a funny or
Oh,
entertaining
no.
way. It just saps every last scene of every drop of hype and fun while hinting at future
Jesus.
spoilers in a desperate BBC Sherlockian bid to
No.
convince you that if you just keep watching, it might get good eventually.
It'll get good
The rest of the
eventually
shows
is
I'm
not
about
a
to tear
good way
apart are,
of...
course, made in a lot of ways, but of all the bad anime I watched this year, Scarlet Nexus is probably the one I enjoyed the least. Luckily, the next entry takes us out the other end of this so bad it's bad valley and back into primo.
Where are we going
territory.
here?
Battle Athletes Victory
What is
Restart
this?
is a reboot of and stealth sequel to the original Battle Athletes.
Never even heard of it.
Weird, horny
Looks very like
cult hit
Tenchi
from the
Muyo.
90s about a distant dystopian future where
The animation's
instead
very
of doing
Tenchi
dumb
Muyo.
stuff like wars and elections, all of humanity's solar system spanning civilization decides its leadership based entirely on which space colony's spandex-clad teenage girl of choice is the best at a series of absurdly high-tech Takeshi's Castle challenges called the Divine Sports Festival.
Ah.
Or the God-large athletic meet, if you go by Protag Chan's English epilogue PowerPoint pledge
Oh
to,
my
quote,
God.
completely separate sports festivals and politics. I've already given this show a pretty thorough roasting as part of the hottest trash of summer,
Right,
so I won't
there's where
bore
I've
you
heard
by
this one as well.
rehashing those character descriptions, G-Gundam
Right, yeah, I
comparisons,
recognise it.
though I will repeat, because it bears infinite repeating, that this is one of the ugliest fucking anime I have ever laid eyes on. I'd say the artwork looks like ass, but considering the Hank Hill thing most of the girls in this attempt at ecchi have going on, that would actually be a compliment. Though the funny thing is, that bottom-of-the-barrel animation ends up being the show's single greatest saving grace as a piece of entertainment.
Oh no.
See, this is one of those anime whose whole plot feels like the product of a drunken game of Mad Libs played by registered sex offenders, and whose chief directing priority seems to be jamming its camera straight up a coochie whenever the opportunity arises.
That's too
and
much.
that could get
Oh my
very
God.
creepy given some of the places that story goes.
Uh-huh.
But since it's impossible to imagine anyone other than Pablo Picasso fapping to this shit, you can just laugh at the spectacle of an Illuminati boss who is also a gorilla ook-ooking at his minions to put 2 more plates on an enormous barbell that's being held aloft by a 6-year-old girl in a skin-tight bodysuit without having to think too much about the last part of that sentence. I call this the producer's principle.
Yeah.
A bad idea executed competently is just boring and unpleasant.
Yes.
But when a bad idea is botched to hell and back, that becomes a true spectacle. And even as I was regaling you with tales of a Yu-Gi-Oh! Faced thigh-high-wearing terrorist,
very
absolute
Yu-Gi-Oh!
terrorist, if you will, convincing her old moon buddy to sneak an invisible regular gun into a kayak race where the goal is to shoot a giant space whale with a fireworks plunger gun, I had no idea how much of a spectacle this show would end up making of itself past what I'd already watched. In the very next episode, the absolute terrorist blows herself up by standing... said blows herself in the script. In the very next episode, the absolute terrorist blows herself. I forgot the
up bit.
I don't know why this is so funny.
Anyway.
Man-child. In the very next episode, the absolute terrorist blows herself up by standing on top of a bomb that devastates an entire stadium and can be seen a mile away when it goes off. And then, when she miraculously reappears on the moon in the epilogue, her only explanation for how she survived all that is, it takes a lot more than that to kill me. Like...
Huh.
What?
Why?
Are you a Super Saiyan?
Yeah, like, what's going on?
She also uses a long car ride with the cop who's
the
happy
quote
to
from
speak
Return
to
of
her
Jafar
because
comes to
even
mind.
if you're a
You'll be surprised what you can live through.
still a lady. To drop a massive exposition dump about the
She's not even marked or damaged or anything.
Which is actually called the Control Committee. They're a secret cabal of powerful businessmen who control the whole of solar system society behind the scenes, not by traditional secret cabal means like manipulating politicians or even bribing cops, apparently, since they get arrested at the end of the show, but through the much less convoluted method of kidnapping women with, quote, good athletic genes and using them to eugenics together an army of super athletes that's been winning the Cosmo Beauty crown on their behalf for the last few decades.
What?
Protag-chan Kanata's main rival, the white-haired, golden-eyed, cool beauty Ava Gallenstein, is the latest and greatest product of this program, and under normal circumstances would be a cinch to win. But
do you reckon Promised Neverland's going to be number one? It is, isn't it? Because it's Jeff's personal opinion involved with this, so yeah. Promised Neverland's going to be number one.
Down there, erased as a result, she starts having these amnesia headaches that throw her off her game. The big bads don't want a tool who can't win, of course. In response to this, they cart out a new, upgraded clone of Ava with red eyes to replace her. And
my God.
Hold up.
Wait a minute.
This is starting to sound kind of familiar. A secret organization of dudes in expensive suits with ridiculous beards and opaque sci-fi sunglasses, an emotionless albino clone who's been genetically modified for superior performance and gets replaced immediately when she fails to live up to that, and she's named Ava. I'd say Hideaki Anno should sue these fellas.
There's definitely some inspiration there.
Anyway, the upgraded Ava, Ava 2.0 if you will, is an intimidating, seemingly impassable threat for Kanata for exactly one episode's worth of Ninja Warrior shenanigans. Then in the following
it's the JoJo scene where they're trying to climb the pillar.
She's suddenly able to match her superhuman rival, literally blow for blow, only falling behind her at the last second because,
of course,
I think the Illuminati hit a taser in her last cue ball or something.
No.
It doesn't really matter. She's totally fine by the next episode, in which the whole of this epically absurd athletic contest ends quite anticlimactically with a simple 100-meter dash, which Kanata wins by floppy Naruto running past the genetic tree.
Floppy Naruto running? Yeah, where are her arms going?
The edge of her own animation cell, fueled by rainbow glowing energy that is quite literally the power of friendship. Then, as she finally takes the ball, she dramatically exposes the whole of the Control Committee's conspiracy using, I promise I'm not making this up, an R2-D2 hologram recording of Ava's mom that was hidden inside the special sweatbands Ava gave Kanata during her brief stay on Earth, and which can only be activated by a folksy future Hokkaido colloquialism that happens to be Kanata's grandmother's catchphrase. Then, within literal seconds of that, Officer Jeff suddenly appears in their secret nerve boardroom,
Okay.
the location of which has never been revealed.
So yeah, so they just know where to go. Fair enough. That's cool. Oh my god.
And lock them up in a minimum security cartoon pirate jail. I honestly can't think of a single aspect of this anime that actually works or
It sounds so haphazardly put together.
Battle Athlete's Victory Restart is a gloriously catastrophic train wreck.
Jeez.
But 2021 was a wild year, and somehow two shows managed to be even
So we got...
worse. It's hard to put into words just how much
Here we go.
hurts me
Oh,
to
mate.
say this, but at the same time, it does need to be said.
Promised Neverland
The second
was
worst
awful.
anime of the year is, without a shred of doubt in my mind, a show that does not exist. They never made it. It's not real, and it can't hurt me. But hypothetically,
Go on, talk
if
about it.
A1 Pictures had released a second season of The Promised Neverland this year, just as
hypothetically,
they totally rewrote the story, skipping over all the best parts of the manga, ruining the impact of everything they did keep in on the way to a half-baked, semi-original remix of the ending with writing that's literally on par with Batman v Superman.
It was awful. Like, the writing was absolutely abysmal.
Because in that, again, totally hypothetical scenario, that anime wouldn't just have ruined itself by being awful. It would have retroactively tainted the legacy of one of 2019's
Like, the first season was incredible, wasn't it? It was absolutely boss.
But killed the possibility of fans ever seeing the manga story we actually fell in love with brought to life. It would have been a kick in the teeth and slap in the face all at once. A betrayal on the same level as discovering that the woman who raised you was actually fattening you up to be fed to literal demons all along. If it existed, which it doesn't, but if it did, I don't know if my brain could even properly process the process.
It was very hard to watch. Very, very difficult to watch.
That anime makes me so
And then that's what I'm saying. I can't even imagine how difficult it was for people that love the manga.
About it now. So it's a real good thing that it doesn't exist, and I just had to reserve this slot on my list for the
imaginary seconds
being
worse.
suddenly canceled right before it was supposed to air. And then also Cloverworks personally mailed every single fan of the series a drawing of Emma giving us the middle finger. Because, like, yeah, that definitely happened and sucked a lot and was super shitty, but that's still nowhere near as shitty and insulting as it would have been if the anime I made up in my nightmares was real. But it's not. Everything's fine. There's only room for one truly unthinkable anime horror.
So X-Arm's got number one then.
And First Place has had that room booked to capacity for a long damn time.
Since the beginning of the year.
I try not to judge anime too harshly by their trailers alone, but to be honest, I knew which show would be the worst of 2021 before I even started writing my list for 2020. I think we all did. On November 6th of last year, Crunchyroll dropped an absolute turd of a trailer for a CGI anime so paint-strippingly stinky that the Berserk community started putting together emergency care packages for fans of the affected manga. And that manga's name was X-Arm.
We know how you feel. You see, I've not seen any of the Berserk anime, so I can't really judge.
Of itself, wildly disproportionate limbs, drawn-on cleavage, and mannequin dead faces. Every last background asset looks like it was pulled straight off the Unity store, and the animated action set in those environments had the feel of puppets being slapped together by children in zero gravity. But even given all of that, the most ominous thing about that trailer was the knowledge, implicit in its very existence, that this was the most impressive part of the show. These were the scenes and shots
they chose to put out there.
Were most worthy of, quote, declaring war on all the sci-fi series of the world. It could only ever have gone downhill from there. But still,
everyone's still talking about it.
Were prepared for just how low X-Arm really goes. For the revelation that its laughable declaration of war was not the peak of its hubris, but merely the tip of a colossal iceberg. There were bad anime before X-Arm.
Yeah.
There will be bad anime after
yeah.
But none of those were, or we can only hope will ever again be, helmed by a live-action TV director with zero animation experience and animated at a CGI studio whose closest thing to an anime credit is some undefined outsourcing work on FromSoft's various Souls-likes.
Oh.
Director Yoshikatsu Kimura
Souls-likes.
believed that as an anime newcomer, he wouldn't be tied down by how things are usually done. And yeah,
Okay.
I can see
Get
that
that,
in this
yeah.
show, but the thing is, making 3D anime is really fucking hard, actually. There's just a lot more things that can go wrong compared
And
to when
everything
you're
seemed to
working
go
in 2D.
wrong.
And usually, things are done the way they're done
For a
to
reason.
avoid those many problems. So this is, seemingly by design, the CG anime equivalent of Sideshow Bob in that parking lot full of rakes.
Wait, just keep... Yeah.
Any amateur hour animation mistake you can think of crops up multiple times an episode here. Obvious model clipping, stiff pose-to-pose animation tweening that makes the characters look like animatronics, the telltale jittery movement of totally unprocessed motion capture data, 2D background characters, and main
Yeah,
characters
the crossover of
wildly
different
out of
animation on the
place
same
next
screen
to
was
the
just like,
CG.
what?
You name it, it's here. But X-Arm also invents a bunch of brand new problems, the likes of which literally haven't been seen since before the dawn of 3D animated television. Like,
Right.
even in the pilot episode
A
of
reboot.
the characters could point their eyes at things and do more with their mouths
I love
than
Reboot.
flap them up and down like a marionette. And while I have seen more than my fair share of janky compositing shortcuts, the stock smoke effect overlay that they chose to loop
Jesus,
over
yeah.
practically every scene of every episode of X-Arm has gotta be the worst by far. Even at a quarter opacity, the swirling patterns in the smoke are more often than not the most animated things on the entire screen, meaning that you end up watching them like a DVD logo about to maybe hit the corner instead of the fight or conversation behind them that you're supposed to be paying attention to, which is actually kind of a small mercy for us in the audience, given that the story's been so badly butchered that the lead writer,
Like-
Tommy Morton, asked to be credited under that obvious pseudonym instead of taking the blame for it. And the manga wasn't even that great to begin with.
Oh, right, I was
It's
just about to say, is the
difficult to
manga
put
good,
into
like-
words just how bad of an adaptation this really is. I've heard from acquaintances in the book publishing biz that
Okay.
the Ari Ferretta and Master of Ragnarok and Blesser of Einherjar anime were poorly received enough to cripple their respective light novel sales, but
Oh.
those series are both still limping along today. Meanwhile, the X-Arm manga was canceled by Shueisha 2 weeks before the anime even finished.
Oh.
That is how quickly and thoroughly it dragged that brand
Jesus,
name
it
into the
destroyed
gutter.
it, my
Well,
God.
That's one interpretation. There is also the possibility that the manga's
Was
readership was
that-
waning before
yeah.
the anime even
Could
started,
have been that.
and its continuation was contingent on the show doing well and picking those numbers back up. Having looked at the source material, it honestly wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. The original manga's sci-fi setting is clearly inspired
Ghost
by
in the Shell?
philosophical cyberpunk geopolitics
Yeah.
of Ghost in the
You
Shell.
see they were
and
going for that.
Shinya Komi sure can draw a mean pair of
Oh,
robot
okay.
tits, but that's about the full extent of the series' so-called seinen maturity. The actual plot that drives it forward, though, has all the narrative nuance and depth of a Saturday morning cartoon. Specifically Shaolin Showdown.
Oh, mate,
Jackie
what a
Chan
show.
Adventures, if you prefer.
They were class.
Like Talismans and Shengon Wu, the titular X-Arms are powerful artifacts with near-magical abilities that surpass most human weaponry. In this case of alien rather than ancient Chinese mystical origin, but that matters very little. All of the bad guys in the world
Shaolin
outget them,
Showdown,
of course,
man.
because they're so powerful, so it's up to a squad of good guys to get them first. The process of getting them does involve more shootouts in casinos and robot brothels than you'd expect to see cartoon Jack.
I think I got 3 episodes into X-Arm and just stopped.
And on occasion,
Which
one
is
of the
three
characters
episodes
will echo
too
an
many.
Interesting idea that a smarter sci-fi anime has already covered, but it's all affectation. X-Arm is only edgily aping the aesthetics of depth and maturity, as it's busy splashing about in a cartoon kiddie pool. Thrust into the middle of this mindlessly typical MacGuffin hunt is a typical Tokyo teen named Akira Natsume, whose cybernetic researcher brother saved his brain in an X-arm box after a car accident destroyed his body. Decades later, when he's recovered from a group of smugglers by a cop named Minami and her sexy android partner Alma, he agrees to use his wireless super hacking abilities to help them and the government track down other X-arms before they cause more X-harm. But because an evil tech wizard who looks an awful lot like Akira multicast Gravira in Tokyo and really
he's a different person, my god.
The department keeps our hero on a very short leash, one that is made of leather and clearly intended for sexy purposes. Those hacking abilities, and with them access to Akira's super fighting robot body called Ogre, are restricted by a DNA lock that only his human handler Minami can undo.
Of course.
And the only way to undo it is to scan her lip print and saliva in Alma's mouth. So yeah, part of the procedure for the protag-kun of this anime suiting up for battle is two chicks making out. Only, of course, these character models are nowhere near articulated enough
so
to
it just looks awkward.
Kiss, and the animator's solution to that problem was to just clip their lips into each other and cover up the intersecting weirdness with a bright white point light, which kinda looks exactly like a typical anime censorship technique.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's a lot of
like
bad
Netflix when they
anime
did Tokyo Ghoul and just put big black lines over where the blood
the
was.
animation is so terrible, it's accidentally homophobic. I digress. Now,
I suppose it is unintentionally being that way, isn't it?
Schlocky cyberpunk manga pastiche to name its main character, who has experimental mental powers, Akira. Just wait till you see the show's final boss.
Whoa.
Technically, it is different, since this Akira is fighting the massive monstrosity of metal and flesh instead of becoming it.
Yeah.
But just as technically, since that's his evil brain clone Akira Beta in there, it's not different at all. Most of the things X-Arm tries to do, other shows, movies, and manga have done far better. But that's true of many a mediocre manga and anime that would never make the top of this list. What makes the X-Arm anime so special is that now I can say with absolute confidence that there is not a single show, movie, or manga out there that has done any of these things worse. And until some brave anime producers decide to put, like, a YouTube comedy skit director in charge of a studio that exclusively does 3D renders for real estate companies or something.
Oh my god, yeah.
It is probably going to stay that way.
Yeah.
I can't say for certain if X-Arm is the absolute worst anime ever made, but it is definitely the worst full-length one that I have ever sat through. And if you've seen more than a few videos on this channel, that should fucking terrify. As for me, I'm just fucking tired. Not solely on account of watching all this bad anime, though that's definitely not helping. Life has just been a lot this year, for good and for bad, and with this video done, I'm going to take a break to relax, get on top of some things, and get ready to move into the new house that we just bought.
Sweet,
I
cool.
have written one more video about 86 that'll be coming down the pipeline either later this year or early next, but after that, assuming nothing else huge happens in the anime space, the next time you'll hear from me will be the ones to watch for winter 2022.
Cool.
Thank you one last time to Rosetta Stone for sponsoring this video. I'm Jeff Thu, your canary in the anime coal mines, signing.
Bye then. I honestly thought he was going to put Promised Neverland as the worst, but X-Arm's just that bad. It's just that bad. It's terrible. So, there we have it. That's the top 5 worst anime of 2021. And yeah, like, if you watched his best anime, he couldn't actually choose one, because there's been so much good anime this year, and I can't wait for next year. There's so much stuff coming out. And, yeah, so, cool. Thank you to my patron. If you want to have your name at the end of every video upload, the link's in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month, so that's help support the channel. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you guys for that, and thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys, all you guys, next time.